So you know the saying that you don't kick the dead horse, right? Well, let's be honest. It wasn't just one horse. It was the whole Liberal Party. So let's see. Let's see Trudeau's hateful rhetoric that vilified unvaccinated Canadians.
In 2021, Justin Trudeau's divisive rhetoric branded unvaccinated Canadians as extremists, fueling policies that stripped them of their freedoms and fractured their lives. Backed by fraudulent science, his words like,
I wish we can actually sue the government for what they did with vaccines. Like, now we found out so many informations, like we found out how much they lied to us, and me personally, I have a side effects from vaccines. Right after my I think second shot, and I needed it to travel, so like I didn't want to take it. I pushed it as much as I could, but then I needed to travel, so I had to take it, right? But after my second shot, I was sick like a dog for almost a month. Before that, I was hitting a gym hard for like 10 years. And after the vaccine, my strength went down like 50%. And up until now, I still didn't fully recover. Like my bench used to be, my incline, I was almost doing 220, which it's not much at all. But for me, it was an accomplishment, right? After vaccine, I was struggling with freaking, how much is it? 110? Oh, sorry. 100, 125, 135. Yeah, I was struggling with 135 pounds. Ridiculous. And now I'm like 135 is okay, but it's so hard to go higher. Like, okay, 145 doable, but above that, no. And it's been 3 years or 2 years. Yeah, 3 years since I took the vaccine. And I'm still not where I used to be before, but okay, in that case, you're like, well, side effect, not too bad, right? Strength went down, I got older as well. But the biggest side effect was, first of all, I got sick for a month. And my ears got bad. Like, my hearing got damaged. Like, really. And I kept telling everyone that it happened right after the vaccine, and everyone was like, oh, that's bullshit, there's no proven side effects like this. So I just let it go. I was like, well, yeah, what can I do, right? About 6 months ago, I looked at somehow I saw the side effects of the vaccines, and the hearing loss was there. So yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that we were pushed to take the experimental vaccines, and we were, I wouldn't even say ridiculous, whatever the word is. Well, what's that? Vilified. Yes, that's exactly the word. We were vilified if we did not take the vaccine, even though it was experimental, right? It's ridiculous. And some people actually got fired from the jobs, right? We all know about it. Yeah, I really wish we can sue the government for this.
left scars, broken families, lost jobs, and a nation divided. Today, lawyer Danielle Freiheit is looking into the fallout and seeking accountability. So let's dig in.
Okay.
It's a topic that still burns for so many Canadians, and that's the hateful, divisive rhetoric spewed by then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau during the COVID-19 pandemic, especially as the novel modified RNA COVID-19 vaccines were being rolled out. In 2021 and 2022, Trudeau didn't just push vaccine mandates. He vilified the unvaccinated, calling them extremists, misogynists, racists, and questioning whether we should even tolerate these people.
It's always ridiculous to me how liberals make these statements. Like, it's not never just like, oh, you're extremists. No, they have like this group that they will use like, oh, you're extremist, misogynist, racist, blah, blah, blah. like they always use at least 2 or 3 derogatory terms, or like kind of hate speech terms. I don't know how would I describe it, but like they're trying to make you look bad, right? So it's never just one thing, but they always add something that has nothing to do with it. It's like, oh, if you have the different opinion than trans people, you're transphobic, racist, homophobic. Like all these 3 things together. And it doesn't matter if you're just like, if there's no context for it, right? Like it always comes in 3 or something like that. It's ridiculous. And that's what liberals do all the time. It's now it's getting a little bit funny. It's still scary, but it's now when it's known, it's getting funny.
La sécurité est accrue autour de vous. Là. On sent que c'est plus dangereux peut-être en ce moment pour vous?
On est dans un moment difficile parce qu'on est en train de prendre des choix importants. On est en train de décider que, oui, on va s'en sortir de cette pandémie par la vaccination. Puis on en connaît tous des gens qui sont en train d'hésiter un petit peu. On va continuer d'essayer de les convaincre. Mais il y a aussi des gens qui sont farouchement opposés à la vaccination.
Qui sont extrémistes.
Qui ne croient pas dans la science, qui sont souvent misogynes, souvent racistes aussi.
C'est
un petit groupe, mais qui prend de la place. Et là, il faut faire un choix en tant que leader, en tant que pays.
Yo, how ridiculous it is. So first you're extremist, then you're misogynist, and then you're racist, and all only because you refuse to take vaccine. How? I get how you can say extremist, even though it's ridiculous. But how do you get racism out of vaccine? How do you get misogyny out of vaccine? Explain that to me. Explain that to me, liberals, Democrats. Same thing that's going on in the US is going on in Canada, and I thank God for President Trump.
Est-ce qu'on tolère ces gens-là ou est-ce qu'on dit, ben voyons, la plupart des gens, presque 80% des Québécois ont fait ce qu'il fallait faire, se sont fait vacciner, on veut revenir aux choses qu'on aime faire. C'est pas ces gens-là qui vont nous bloquer. Maintenant, on est dans une 4e vague qui est presque entièrement des gens non vaccinés qui remplissent nos hôpitaux à travers le pays. À un moment donné, il faut mettre son pied à terre pour dire, excusez-moi, là, mais il n'y a pas de...
Okay. It's funny how they were talking about the hospitals being full and all of that stuff, right? I had to take a COVID test once or twice for work, and it was empty. No issues. Didn't see anything full, not parking lot full, nothing. So, like, what are you saying that the hospitals are full? Is it because you made some capacity that they can use only 10% of hospital? Or, man, it was crazy times. And it's even crazier now when we know that it's proven that it didn't come from the bats, right? Which we all knew, but somehow we got canceled if we said that that's probably not where it came from, right? Man, I'm glad this clown's gone.
Débat sur la science.
These weren't offhand remarks. They were calculated, repeated, and followed by policies that segregated and discriminated against millions.
Yep.
The travel bans, for instance, the ArriveCan app, the loss of livelihoods, it all stemmed from this dangerous narrative that we were in a pandemic of the unvaccinated. And as biostatistician Regina Whittiel has meticulously detailed in her 2 books, the first, Fissman's Fraud, The Rise of Canadian Hate Science, and the sequel, called The Accomplices, 3 leading Canadian science institutions backed fraudulent research and data to boost COVID-19 vaccine uptake and demonize the unvaccinated. She shows how all of this was driven by political agendas and financial incentives, with their dismissive responses to evidence of misconduct thoroughly documented. So today we're left asking, how did this rhetoric impact Canadians? And how do we hold leaders accountable to ensure this kind of hate never divides us again? I'm joined by lawyer Daniel Freiheit, who's also known as Lion Advocacy on X, and he's been digging into the real world consequences of Trudeau's words. So let's hear it from him.
When I saw those quotes from Trudeau and in that video and various follow-up interviews he gave, where he really evoked a lot of emotion to bring on the hate, and a lot of people on X kind of really felt it, and a lot of members of the public were complaining about this. Like, how is this acceptable a way to speak about any member of society, regardless if they're an identifiable group or not? And we'll get into that later. So when I saw these comments and the aggression that Trudeau expressed over this group, calling anyone who was fiercely opposed to vaccination as misogynist, or suggesting that they're all misogynists, racist, and that that they can't be tolerated, or that they're taking up space, that troubled me a lot. Like, that really, I did not sit well with that. And so it's one thing to make those kind of threats, and then another to actually follow through with them. And then what we started seeing is that after he made those threats, he actually followed through with them. Sometimes in ways that he can't be directly liable for.
That's the question, isn't it? Trudeau's words weren't just hot air. They weaponized fear and turned neighbors against neighbors.
If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train beside vaccinated people.
He painted the unvaccinated.
Whoa. Man, that's crazy. I did not even know about that.
As a threat to society, and then backed it up with policies that stripped them of basic freedoms, like the travel bans, barring Canadians from planes and trains, keeping families and loved ones apart.
That there will be consequences for those people in not being able to go to a gym or a restaurant, not being able to go to a movie theater.
Preventing people from attending funerals and isolating communities. The ArriveCan app turned border crossings and travel within this beautiful country into dystopian checkpoints, with some facing harassment from private security at their own homes. This wasn't about public health. It was about control and ultimately punishment.
Those are two good examples where Trudeau would have had direct hands-on involvement. With respect to the travel ban, he got some advice from independent medical people. None of them really clearly, there's no documentation that really clearly shows they wanted the unvaccinated ban from the trains and planes. Like, that's not, if you ask most doctors, they would say now, some on the record, some off. That probably didn't make much sense. And I even spoke to a couple, they're like, I don't really know where he's going with that. And so if you ask for details on that decision.
Yeah, that was my biggest problem with vaccines back then, right? Like, up until COVID, pretty much what vaccine meant is that it will prevent you from getting the sickness, but getting the disease, getting the virus, right? And somehow with the COVID vaccines, it worked kind of like multivitamin. Like, oh yeah, you'll get it, but you're not gonna die. Well, so how is it vaccine? Like, why are you calling it vaccine then? Why aren't you calling it like immunity booster or, I don't know, multivitamin, right? So it didn't really make sense that the unvaccinated people can endanger the vaccinated people. Like I'm saying, ridiculous. And you couldn't talk about it back then. Now you finally can, but...
Guess what they say? Cabinet confidence. I'm like, whoa, so what can you say in cabinet confidence? Like, how much leeway does cabinet confidence give a member of parliament or a cabinet member? Can you actually basically encourage criminal, can their criminal speech be protected under cabinet confidence? That's where I got a bit concerned.
Not being able to get on a train or a plane.
Those travel mandates did not make any sense up until June 2022. They made zero sense. And initially, planes and trains were considered high filtered places. Like, I was scared to get on a plane initially. Then everybody's telling me, no, they circulate the air. It's actually very clean. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird. I always get sick in planes. Like, anyhow, point is, the travel mandates did not make sense, at least and especially not until June 2022. And no other country, as far as I'm aware, put this on their
No, I mean like the plane. I used to work as a flight, and it's just a can of bacteria. Like, yes, the air gets filtered, but guess what? Those seats, it's not getting washed every flight. Yeah, and the like high touch areas are getting washed, right? But do you really think it's getting sanitized? Do you really think they change the rug from seat to seat or from cabin to cabin even? No. So yeah, even though air gets filtered, those high touch areas and just touch areas, no, that's not clean. It's just one big can of bacteria.
Citizens that they couldn't travel internally. So they take up space on trains. How do we tell? We don't tolerate them. They're not going to be allowed to get on planes and trains. Not going to be able to travel to see family members' funerals.
That was ridiculous.
On plane.
Yeah.
So he made these threats, and then he followed through with them, all in cabinet confidence. I mean, that irked me. And I don't know a lawyer in Canada who shouldn't be a bit irked. Like 1%, 5%. I'm up to 80% irked, and irked to the point where even the Information Commissioner of Canada was like, why are you declaring cabinet confidence?
Scary is right. Trudeau's words didn't just hurt feelings, they ruined lives. Families were torn apart, friendships ended, and careers destroyed.
I want to stand up for the choice of those who are there for their neighbors, not those who are risking us all going into further lockdowns, of slowing our economic recovery.
All because the Prime Minister chose to demonize a group of Canadians for their personal medical choices. But some of those targeted had valid religious or medical exemptions, yet they were still swept up in this hate campaign. And Daniel's been looking into whether this rhetoric crosses into criminal hate speech, especially for protected groups, and what he's finding is a legal gray area that demands further inquiry. Most of us have heard that hate speech laws in Canada don't typically protect vaccination status because it's not considered a protected group. But is there really a hard line here?
Well, what I found is that you can hate on people in this country. You're allowed hating people for their political views, for their vaccination status. It's legal. This country, despite the restrictions we have on speech, you're allowed, and police won't enforce and Crown won't really prosecute for hate speech in this country unless it's against an identifiable group. There, everyone's eyes start raising eyebrows. I could list the identifiable groups. They're in the criminal code, section 318, I think. 319 references the 318 definition. And I'm not a criminal expert by any means. I've gotten some experience in helping out on different things, providing my just business kind of sense on some of these things. I'm like, well, it doesn't seem right to me, or just interpreting the language of certain. But the hate speech crosses the line when it's against an identifiable group. Now, everyone says vaccination status is not an identifiable group. There's no protections there. I'm like, yeah, there probably should be some statutory amendment there, because I think the decision to get vaccinated, I wouldn't recommend hating anybody for that. I don't think it's wise. I think there may be various reasons they don't want to get vaccinated. What I started seeing was that a lot of people who didn't get vaccinated or were fiercely, in Trudeau's words, what's the French word that he used? Fièrement? Whatever it is. Fiercely against vaccination, they actually had valid religious and medical exemptions or medical exemptions. And we start to see that. The cases are coming out now. There was one in Alberta where, oops, this person actually did have a religious exemption.
Trudeau campaigned on this wedge issue, riling up crowds on the election trail, turning vaccine status into a moral litmus test. And for what? To score political points while Canadians lost jobs, homes, and their mental health spiraled out of control? Daniel's post on X asked people to share their stories, and the flood of responses, missed funerals, broken families, harassment, shows the human cost of this rhetoric. We need accountability, not just for justice, but to set a precedent. No leader should ever be able to foment hate like this again. So while Daniel is at the information gathering stage of looking into all of this, what's the end game, and what is he hearing so far from Canadians?
I'm finding that people, I know people are going to hate me for this, but look, the hate speech, that is what it is. If you're not an identifiable group.
If you want to get on a plane or a train in the coming months, you're going to have to be fully vaccinated. So families with their kids don't have to worry that someone is going to put them in danger in the seat next to them or across the aisle.
Maybe
Okay, wait, just a second. Is immigrant and what's the word? Identifiable group? Because remember Don Cherry when he was like, you people, and he meant the people who are not wearing the poppy to acknowledge the veterans on the Remembrance Day. You know, remember that when he said you people and he got cancelled? And everyone was kind of like, oh, racist, hate speech and everything. Was he really talking about identifiable group or no?
There's a crowd out there who has a different view. But if you're not an identifiable group, it's going to be harder. Now, there is intimidation, there is coercion, there is threats of, maybe there's other sections there.
Okay, since I mentioned Don Cherry, I'm just gonna state my opinion. It was completely ridiculous. Like, to me, he was talking about the people who did not wear the poppy. He has a right for his own opinion, right? When he used you people, again, he meant the people who don't wear the poppy, because for him it means that these people don't acknowledge the sacrifices the veterans did for Canada. And it was on Remembrance Day. So honestly, I don't care if you're immigrant like me, or if you've been living here for a while, if you're already Canadian citizen, or if you've been born here, or if you're first generation Canadian, who cares? You should not get offended. It's shameful if you don't wear the poppy and someone points at it. Yes, maybe you have your own way to respect the veterans, and maybe it's not the poppy. But if he points at you, you should feel shamed. And there's no racism behind it. There's no anti-immigration. There's nothing. Like when he said you people, he literally just meant the people who didn't wear poppy. It wasn't to target some group or anything. And it's really, really shameful that he got cancelled. After all these years, what he did in sport, in Canada, like, ridiculous. For saying you people, for fighting for veterans.
That might be offside. But in terms of that, you know, I think the real people with a claim here is the identifiable groups, people who had religious exemptions, people who had medical conditions, recognized or not. I don't care if that, because everyone's like, no one has a medical exemption to the vaccine. What are you talking about? Didn't you read the ministerial order? No one has an exemption to it. Try to find that guideline now. It's scrubbed. The government of Ontario scrubbed that exemption guideline. Don't blame them. I tried to get them to scrub it earlier. And I tried to get the CPSO to scrub it, or to at least to say, hey, wait a second, that's not binding.
So there's the mission: truth, accountability, and a promise to never let this happen again. Trudeau's rhetoric didn't just divide us, it dehumanized Canadians. And the scars are still fresh.
Businesses that choose to move forward with vaccination requirements aren't subject to unnecessary or unjustified lawsuits.
Daniel's work is a step toward healing and ensuring that no politician can hide behind cabinet confidence or pandemic fear to justify this kind of speech and these actions. If you've been impacted, reach out to Lion Advocacy on X, share your story, and perhaps help to build a case for justice.
No, just thinking about it, it used to be ridiculous. I remember me and my wife, like I said, we pushed the vaccination as far as we could. But then eventually in 2022, we just needed to travel. We were moving between provinces, and driving a car for 3 days with animals just wasn't a choice, right? So we ended up taking the vaccine. But before that, like when everyone at our work was getting vaccinated, we were literally, I don't know if afraid is the good word, but yeah, I guess that's the best word. Like, we were afraid to say that we did not take vaccine, because then automatically we were considered anti-vaxxers, extremists, conspiracy theorists, and all of it. Like, we were literally considered bad people only because we did not trust the vaccine. And I'm sorry, in my case, I was right. I'm not saying that it was harmful to everyone, but for me and even my mom, we had a side effect. So obviously it runs in my family, something in, I don't know, my DNA or something that doesn't really react good to the COVID vaccine. And now I have consequences because of that, right? My hearing is worse, my strength and stamina got worse. And yeah, it was ridiculous times. Like I said, it was even worse than talking about politics. You know how sometimes you're careful because you don't know if you're talking to liberals and you want to talk about politics and you yourself are conservatives. So you're kind of like, ooh, I should be careful over here. But back then, the vaccination question, it was literally like, oh, so you don't care about other people? You're extremist, you're anti-vaxxer, conspiracy theory, you're so uneducated, like all of these things, right? And you saw when even Prime Minister says things like this, when he says, oh, so you're extremists, racists, and misogynists, it's like, wait, what? How did we go from not trusting the vaccine to this? Yeah, it's ridiculous and definitely should not repeat ever again. So yeah, like you saw in this video, if you have any stories you want to share, definitely contact that lawyer, because in the end it's we're trying to prevent it, right? And what's ridiculous thing about this, all of this happened during the Liberal government. So it impacted our freedom of speech. Now we don't really have to, we don't really trust the science because everyone lied to us. Everyone was limiting our freedom of speech, everything, right? It all came from Liberal government. And Canada elected them again. Even after Mark Carney was threatening with the bill C-63 to regulate the free speech again.